The meeting will come to order. Ms. Gore, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Benjamin? Ms. Conley?
Present.
Ms. Williams?
Present.
Mr. Lamar?
Present.
Dr. Diop?
Present.
We are going to stand for the pledge to the flag in a moment of silence. During our moment of silence, let me just ask you, if you would please, to remember Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. It is 80 miles outside of San Antonio, Texas. 14 students, 1 teacher has been killed. They haven't, the suspect was an 18-year-old. Let's say prayers for those students, certainly for all students, teachers, families, and in our moment of silence, please remember them. Let's stand for our pledge to the flag. Mr. Lamar, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. Thank you. We're going to move on to citizens' comments. Holly West. Holly, if you would, please give us your name and address for the record, and we give you 2 minutes. Okay?
My name's Holly West. My address is 11930 Cranston Cove, Arlington, Tennessee 38002. I would like to address some concerns I've had for a few years now. The first being the late work policy that after 2 days it's a 0. I'd like to request that y'all look into extending the time from 2 days to 5 days. Or it should be 2 days that they are in the class in high school. They only go every other day except on Fridays. I've done research in other districts in Tennessee and found that after a dozen schools, the lowest was 3 days with the majority of 5. I also present that the teachers put the grades in within 5 days so that the students are aware that it's late. I'd also like to point out that teachers to follow the guideline on the field trip late rules. There have been several times that points have been taken off when the kids have been gone for a field trip and turned it in the allotted time that they were gone. Next to the iPads, both my kids as well as others I've spoken to have been witness to, and I have been witness to my child hitting submit and it not go through. Teachers need to have a little more leniency or a little bit more compassion on the iPad issue. Example, my son did something on a PDF, hit submit, it wiped it out after an hour of work in calculus, and he had to totally redo it. Next is student-teacher communication. If the student sends a teacher an email with a question and gets no response and then doesn't submit their work, and then they count it late. As the student reached out before it was due, or if they can't complete it all, send the teacher an email and the teacher does not respond, explaining the question to the students, how are they to do their work? Our teachers are there to explain and teach the material to the students. My 8 kids have emailed some of their teachers and gotten no response. I can email the same teacher and get a response within a few hours. How can they get their concerns addressed if they don't respond to the students, if they don't see them every day? I'd like to close with my final thought. The bottom line is, if we're going to hold our students accountable with no exceptions, then the teachers need to be held accountable at the same level of standards, if not higher. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Is there a motion to approve the May 24, 2022 agenda?
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Lamar and seconded by Dr. Viox. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, the motion is carried. I'm having trouble getting myself refocused back on the meeting. I'm so sorry about that, but I will get myself refocused, for sure. All right, I do have a chairman's report tonight. First of all, I want to make sure, board members, that you did receive your yearly calendar for meetings for our next school year. Can you believe it's that time of year already? Also, I would like for you to look at an article that is in the Tennessee School Board Association Journal. In the front of the cover, it says Achieving Positive Board Governance, and there is an article that I found really good, and I just wanted to recommend it to you. 10 Laws of Great Board Governance. It appears on 18, starting on page 18, and I think it ends on 20. So just look at that. I think it's a great article, and there's several things in the journal this month that I think are really relevant and very important. So I want you to, if you find the time to take a look at that, please. Now I have the great privilege of reporting to you our superintendent's evaluation. And I'm happy to report that Mr. Mayo has scored a 3.0 out of a 3.0. That is called perfect. I'm going to be honest with you, I looked really hard to try to find something like I did last year to see if I could recommend something to him, to give him a recommendation. And this year I went through it and spent a lot of time on it, and I could not. Obviously our other board members felt the same because he has a 3.0 out of a 3.0. Let me read some of the commendations that some of the board members gave about Mr. Mayo. Mr. Mayo participates actively in community life and affairs. He has distinguished himself in improving this performance standard. Mr. Mayo continues to demonstrate outstanding communication skills in every format, and that is so true. Mr. Mayo has done an amazing job through his tenure, but especially during the pandemic, and continues to innovate and move this district forward. The next board member, very effective communicator regarding school promotion, school concerns, student achievement, and etc. Maximizes efficient use of resources, money, materials, staff, facilities, campus, and other assets. Stays on top of the budget, hires appropriate staff for student needs and capital improvement. Third, he listens to suggestions of others. Don't we like that? Researches the information and makes changes as necessary. He tries to meet the needs of staff and changing the counselor's hiring months to 10.5 for 4 and leaving one counselor at 11 months because it meets her needs. Works closely with and listens to the executive staff. All right, what do y'all say over it? No. Executive staff and the Board of Education. In spite of the COVID, maintains good staff morale and loyalty to the school district. He has Monday motivations, quarterly employee celebrations, and etc. He does. Mr. Mayo entered his role in unprecedented circumstances and never blinked. He was prepared for this role from the beginning and continues to lead not only our district but also in our community as a herald of public education and the shining star that is ACS. Here are some recommendations. Now, from a 3.0, you can't wait to hear what those could possibly be, right? Mr. Mayo continues to build public support for our school district and develop good morale for the personnel in our district. And you know, when we have happy people, let me tell you something, they work harder. When that climate is positive, they work harder for these students right over here. So I think that's important. Only one recommendation, keep up the excellent work. Just keep doing what you've been doing in the past. One board member says, take time to smell the roses. I guess you hadn't been doing that. Keep up the good work. Proud to call you our our superintendent. And those are all glowing terms, and we're very proud of our superintendent. And he has just been amazing, along with his staff and all the hard work of the teachers and everybody. He's got everybody working so well together. I think that just sends a message of we're going to make it a positive place to work, and we're going to work hard, all of us together. And that's what it's all about, working together. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayo. We're proud of you, and we want you to say something.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the very positive evaluation. I really appreciate that. And I want you to know that just because that score is what it is, it doesn't mean that there's not goals or room for me to continue to grow. Because if anything, that inspires me to grow more. And, I always, set those goals for myself to, for areas that I want to grow in. And I honestly, I appreciate the great feedback, the vote of confidence again for this school year. It's been a tougher, probably, school year this year than it was even last year. The only thing better about it was I had a year of experience, so I knew a little bit more what to expect this year, so that made it a little bit better. But again, I want you to know that I take your comments and your recommendations very seriously, and I appreciate them, and I will continue to, work hard for you, work hard for the district, and try to continue to better myself in this role as superintendent, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, that concludes my report, superintendent's report.
Okay. So first I want to start by introducing our new high school principal, Mr. Shannon Abraham. Mr. Abraham, if you would stand. I think Mr. Abraham became the most famous, not that we care about social media that much, okay? But he became, I think, maybe the most famous social media celebrity that we've welcomed to ACS. Great comments, great positivity from, even before we posted that, we heard, fabulous things about you and your leadership. And so we're real excited to work with you and know that you're going to do great things at Arlington High School. And we're all here to support you and help you in that. And I didn't know he was going to be here today. He was actually here interviewing for teaching positions, and I kept walking by the room and I kept seeing him staying and staying and staying. So finally I texted him and I said, hey, are you going to be here at 5:30? If so, I'd like to introduce you at the board meeting. And so he said, yeah, I'll stick around. So we're excited about you. We're excited to welcome you and what you're going to bring to our high school and to our district. So he's already on the ground. He's still under contract with Bartlett, so we got to be careful. But he is doing some of his interviews because he knows the early bird gets the worm when it comes to staff members. So welcome, and we're excited to have you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, welcome.
So I want to start this. It's not really our last board meeting, but it is as far as it relates to the school year. And I do want to thank all of our employees for this school year. It's been, a crazy school year, for lack of better words. As I mentioned earlier, it's been more difficult in a lot of ways than the one we had last year, but the difference was our employees knew how to handle that. Last year, they were coming in blindly, and it was scary. They didn't know what was facing them, but they had that confidence this year. Even though we had probably more challenging situations to deal with this year, they were better equipped and confident in their ability to deal with that. And just to give you an idea, this year we ended the year with 775 positive student cases. And last year we had 270 student cases. So that's the difference in this year from last year. We thought we were on easy street and we went to in-service. We had a good time. We were dancing. I wasn't dancing, but some people were dancing. And just having a great time that we needed coming off the last school year. And then boom, before we could start our first day of school, we got hit really hard. And it continued up through pretty much the first semester and into the second semester. So I can't say enough nice things about our employees, and I hope that they're going to get a lot of much-deserved rest and relaxation this summer. And I'm just not even going to jinx this and say anything about next school year at this point. I'm just going to move right on through that. But I do want to call out all of our employees, no matter what their role was. They had a very integral part and an integral role in helping the school year be successful. And I certainly don't want to leave out my executive staff members who have been in my office more times than they can count or want to be, just to talk about how we're going to move forward with this new thing that happened over the weekend, or this thing that happened today, or this thing that's going to happen tomorrow. We spent a lot of time talking through, and I believe that's a lot of why we're successful, is because we don't make decisions in isolation. We talk about things, we disagree, then we agree before we leave on what our path is going to be moving forward. And I think that's what has made us strong as a leadership team. So I appreciate them, of course, very much. Class of 2022, a week ago tonight. It seems like a month in some ways, but it's only been a week. We graduated, I think, 515 students with a record-breaking $41.6 million scholarship offerings to that class. So that's certainly something to be proud of for our students and for our district, showing the resiliency, too, of our students after these kids that graduated this year, they've had to endure a lot in their high school career. They've had a very abbreviated, less than desirable high school career, but they were resilient and they broke that record of scholarship offerings, and so we know they're going to do great things in the future. Speaking of next year, we are already in the process of finalizing some things for next year, such as our theme, and I think we finally landed on that today. Of what our theme's going to be. We've been really struggling with it, and last year was just a really great start. We had a really great start, and so it was kind of hard to top that, and so we've all been struggling with it, but I think we came up with something today that we're going to be really proud of to start promoting out there. And we'll be asking our employees for a couple of asks over the summer to send us some vacation pics again, and then we're going to ask them for another pic that will be real interesting to see when we all come back together in the fall, that will tie in with some other things that will make sense as we roll that out. I also want to publicly thank our retirees. We had some retirees this year. I can't off the top of my head, I'm thinking maybe 10 or so, Dr. Clark, 10 retirees, 10, 12, something like that. But we did have an opportunity to visit them at the schools the last couple of weeks when their schools honored them and present them with a little token of appreciation on behalf of the school board and the district. So we wish them well. They've put their years in, and they're on to other bigger and better things, hopefully. We are getting ready to start our summer learning camps. Mr. Goforth and his academic team, they've been planning for months now, sort of behind the scenes, to get those ready to launch out. I know some teachers have already been working on their rooms. Those camps will be held at Donaldson Elementary and Arlington Middle. Speaking of the summer camp, there is a date that you all may be interested in. It's June the 13th at 10:30 at Donaldson Elementary. The commissioner and the Accelerating Tennessee 2022 tour will make a stop by Donaldson Elementary. That's June 13th at 10:30, and you all are invited to come and see that, participate in that. You're invited to come anytime during the summer camps, of course, and see what the teachers and students are doing. And if these summer camps are anything like last year, we'll have parents begging us to keep doing them, keep having them throughout the summer. But we have to tell parents, our teachers need a break too, So the camps are that good. They were that successful last year, so we're looking forward to those happening the same way this next year. I've mentioned planning for next year, and with that, that concludes my report. And I will ask for any departmental reports. Dr. Clark, Human Resources. Dr. Clark's just been busy hiring, replacing, scheduling interviews, all that kind of stuff, just the normal summer stuff that we do. Mr. Goforth, academics? No report. Okay. Ms. Douglas, accountability?
No report.
Ms. Douglas has been dealing with her usual too, as well as Mr. Goforth. Mr. Ruff, operations?
No report.
Okay, you're getting ready to have some reports coming up, yeah. Ms. Speakman?
No report, but like Mr. Ruff, I will have too much for you in June, in August.
Okay, Mr. Hill, communications?
No report.
All right, and Ms. Roberts will come when, Ms. Williams, when you call for her. And that concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Financial report, Ms. Roberts.
Good evening, everyone. The financial report as of March 2022, general fund revenues, $39,823,378. Expenditures, $30,488,980. Nutrition fund, revenues, $2,160,429. Expenditures, $1,158,989. Federal and discretionary grants funds, revenue, $2,676,312. Expenditures, $2,716,102. CIP fund, revenues, $1,270,080. Expenditures, $1,792,701. For the Interlocal Health Trust Report, year-to-date revenues, $35.8 million. Year-to-date expenses, $31.5 million. Beginning net position, $12.4 million, with an ending net position of $16.7 million. And that concludes both the financial reports.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. TLN report.
No report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lamar. All right, we're going to move on to the approval of the superintendent's contract.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve.
A second.
All right, it's been a motion to approve by Dr. Viox, seconded by Ms. Conley. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Looks like you're rehired, Mr. Mayo, for sure.
Good to know.
Good to know, right? After that evaluation, I don't think there was any doubt. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Dr. Viox made a motion to approve, second by Ms. Conley. I'm going to remember your name in a minute. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, the motion is carried. All right, next item. Mr. Mayo, I believe we're ready for our miscellaneous budget items.
All right. So the item there is miscellaneous budget item 9A, Resolution 2022-12 of the Arlington Community Schools Board of Education amending the 2021-22 schools budget. This, again, is our regular monthly budget transfers that we do, and there's several of these at the end of the year for professional development, where we have some teachers that are going on some PD trips over the summer, and some of this we're using year-end money to utilize for those teachers to have those opportunities. There's also some other transfers within there that cover things where, for benefits, or where benefits might not have been needed, then we've transferred that into some other areas, materials, supplies, professional development. So with that, it is my recommendation that the board approve Resolution 2022-12 of the Arlington Community Schools Board of Education, amending the 2021-22 schools budget.
I move that we.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Conley and second by Dr. Viox.
I'm working hard over here.
You really are. We got you going. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion's carried. All right, we're ready for our business recommended action items.
Okay, the first item there, 10A, is the approval of the 2022-2023 proposed budget. Once that item, if that item is moved and seconded, then I have a brief presentation for our budget for the upcoming school year. So it's my
All right.
recommendation that you
Yes, sir.
approve the 2022-23 proposed budget, and then I'll do the presentation.
Do we have a
for you.
motion?
I move.
So moved. All right, seconded by Mr. Lamar. All those in favor? Aye. Oh, I'm sorry, is there any discussion? Sorry. Oh, we're going to move on. We're going to let you explain first.
Yeah. Got me ready, Mr. Wayne?
Go through it first. I'm trying to really speed you up. Sorry about that.
And your screens are back working again.
Yes, they
Thanks
are.
to Mr. Overby.
Thank you, Jason.
So, we, all of you had an opportunity to meet one-on-one with Ms. Roberts, our Chief Financial Officer, and myself back earlier during the development of the budget. There have been very, very few changes to that budget, really, if any, since we've met to go over that. So you've had that firsthand knowledge of that. So one of the things we did also is we sent out to employees some of the budget highlights so that they would know what is encompassed in this proposed budget for the upcoming school year. So I'm going to hit some of those, but I'm also going to talk a little bit about our revenues and our expenses for the benefit of the board and the meeting. I did not talk about those with the employees because I didn't really think they probably cared that much about that. They needed to see if they were getting their cost of living raise and their step increase and some benefit information. So that's sort of what we focused on for the employee portion. But for the purpose of this meeting, you can see our general fund revenue is totals $56,610,928. And this basically just shows a source of where that information or where those funds come from. You can see the bulk, 45% is BEP, which will change next year. That will become TISA, as that's been approved as the new funding formula. So we'll be working with that a little bit differently next year. You can see the other areas where we get revenue, some very minor. Shelby County property tax 26%, Arlington tax, property tax 1%, wheel tax 2%, local option sales tax 13%, fund balance 10%, tuition is 1% for those students that have to pay tuition that live out of county. And then there's a less than 1% Lakeland property tax for those high school students we serve. And then other is 1.5%. And basically that other is tuition, includes that tuition cost, some more of the tuition costs for non-resident students, depending on if they live out of county. I don't think we have any. We may have one out-of-state student this year that has to pay tuition. I know we've had some in the past. There's also some miscellaneous revenue. For example, if an employee has to replace their badge and we have to print that, then we have to receive money for that. We give them one initially, but if you lose it or it gets destroyed, then you might have to pay for that in the future. So that's where that other little percentage of revenue comes from, very, very minor. Expenditures, you can see the same. You can see that regular instruction and education is 49%, almost half, right at half of those expenditures. And then all the other areas that are encompassed with that, Office of the Principal, Board of Education, 2%, Capital Outlay 10%, Transportation 3%, Technology 2%, Operation of Plant 5%, CTE 3%, Special Education about 8%. Some of those other areas that are encompassed in that are several departments collapsed together in there, which includes Director of Schools, which is the account, my budget, alternative education, guidance, some accountability, fiscal services, human resources department, safety, planning, and then there's also some transfers out of the budget that we have money set aside for that, and that's where that money is paid from. So you can see that balance at the bottom is the same, the expenditures are the same as the revenues from the previous page, which is important because that means we're presenting a balanced budget. Nutrition fund revenue, you can see USDA 40%, and then we've got commodities, breakfast, lunch payment for adults that buy lunches, a la carte items, and then the other is less than 1%, and that is some additional supplemental funds that the state provides district. It's very minor. I think it's like less than $5,000 that we get a year for that. You can see the total revenues down at the bottom, $2,461,500. I do want to point out that you remember at our last board meeting we had to have a budget transfer because our nutrition participation skyrocketed as a result of the USDA providing the free lunches for the last 2 years, and that ends this year. So we'll be watching this very closely to make sure that we don't have to make any adjustments along the way for this budget year. But it'll be a little bit different. It'll be back to pre-COVID potentially. We've also done some things though through these 2 years to increase participation. So it will be interesting to see if those menu items and those different initiatives that Ms. Roberts and Ms. Earl and the nutrition staff have put into place will continue to carry over and help us generate more revenue in that area. Next, we have federal discretionary revenues. You can see that total amount, $2,500,000 approximately. You can see that Title I, actually IDEA Part B, that's special ed, 45% there. Title I, 36.8%, and that amount seems to dwindle, as time goes by for us as well. And then there's some other title minor funding that's provided, revenues that's provided in other title areas, such things for professional development. That allows us to use those funds that are given to school districts. You also see other up there. That includes the Coordinated School Health and Safe Schools grants, and then the Carl Perkins grant is also a very minor portion of that equals that total of $2.5 million. The CARES ESSER funds, we're still, of course, managing those. You can see at the bottom, the total ESSER funds that we as a district were given over time was $8,845,538. You can see also that ESSER 1 we were really excited to get that, but it was really minor in the scheme of things when we received it. We didn't know that because we didn't know 2 was coming and we didn't know 3 was coming. Ms. Douglas is about ready for all that to be over because she's the record keeper of a lot of that. But anyway, you can see the breakdown of our ESSER funds and what percentage. The 3 was 63%, the 2 was 28%, and then the original one was about 9%. I also have a breakdown, it's not projected there, of where we are to date on each of those funds because we have until September of 2022 to spend ESSER 1, September 2023 to spend ESSER 2, and September 2024 to spend ESSER 3. So on ESSER 1, we have about $47,500 left of that pot. We have ESSER 2, we have $1.3 million left, and of ESSER 3, we have $5.3. But keep in mind, though, a lot of that has already been allocated for capital projects or things that we've already noted that's been spent, but because we haven't paid for it yet, that money is still there. But it's been allocated, and like we do how many times a year, if something comes in less expensive than what we thought, then we reallocate it again for something else. So we've been able to do a lot with our ESSER funds, and so I'm appreciative, of course, to Ms. Douglas and her team for staying on top of that and keeping us out of the audit for that, because there's a lot of auditing that goes with those ESSER funds. So that sort of highlights the expenditures and the revenues that we're receiving as a district for this next school year, or the ones we're currently working with. So here's some things I shared with employees of how this budget, the school board, how the school board is supporting employees in this new budget. All employees received a 2% cost of living adjustment. We also provided a step, or we are proposing a step increase for eligible employees. Additional personal day for employees who do not get a step increase because they're already at that high step, they'll get an additional personal day. A bonus payment for eligible employees. I did tell employees in our last bonus payment that probably would be the last one, but we are able to provide at least one more year with the really nice bonus that we've been giving our employees over the past couple of years with the ESSER money that we've been able to fund that. So depending on where that is, at the end of the year, we'll see. I don't know that we'll be able to continue it beyond that, but Ms. Douglas did come to me and said, hey, due to things coming in less, we've got the money to do this one more year if you want to do that. So that, of course, we want to do that as long as we can for our employees. They've done a lot to get us through these 2 years, and we want to recognize them for that. We did have a coaching stipend increase, and that's not only coaches, but that's also fine arts, band directors. I think there's some areas where student council, some other areas, clubs and organizations, a few are on that stipend as well. Post-retirement health benefits extended to employees hired through December 31st, 2007. That cutoff was July 1st, 2017, but in looking at that, we found that some employees had been offered a position under the old policy, but then actually came to work under the new policy. So we felt it was fair, as board members did, to come back and capture those employees, and now that window is permanently closed for anybody that's hired after that date. We've continued, as mentioned earlier, to have quarterly employee celebrations, and we have budgeted again for that for next year. We did have a slight premium increase, 2% this year for our health benefits. Last year we did not have a percentage increase at all, and you can see over the years, in 18 we had a 4.3%, 19 12.07%, 20 16%, and then 21 6%. So 2%, we hate that it's any, but it could be a lot worse, as we've seen in past years. And there's just a breakdown of what employees will be paying with the 2% increase. And they've all participated in open enrollment by now, and all employees had this information prior to going into open enrollment so that they weren't surprised when they went to open enrollment and signed up for their benefits this year. There are some benefits that have increased as a result in our benefits program. Even though we had the 2%, we did not have a vision or dental rate increase or change. Physical therapy copays also are going to $30 from $45, so that's a good drop effective September the 1st. The in-house pharmacy has also opened at the Bartlett Care Here Center, and so that's beneficial. And I can give you a personal example. I went to the clinic the other day for sinus, and when I got my refill, they said, well, you can go over here and we'll give you a 90-day supply, and it'll only cost you $6. If you go to the pharmacy, it's going to cost you between $10 and $15. So there is a savings with that for our employees. Again, I mentioned no rate increase for dental or vision, and our employees were able to ask questions or get more information pertinent to their own situations during the May open enrollment that they've participated in by now. Students and staffing, we've added an additional ESL teacher in this budget, an additional SPED preschool teacher. We've added 2 additional nurses in ACS that we will continue to sustain in the new budget. We've added an additional guidance counselor so that both elementary schools will have 2 guidance counselors on hand at all times. We've added 2 additional special education assistants. We've added an additional technology support specialist to help with the infrastructure of all the technology and all the devices that we have, keeping those up and running for students and staff. We added a specialized projects administrator. We have committed to AHS staffing with the opening of the new Lakeland High School. We committed to that staff early on, like first, second week of school, so they wouldn't have to worry about that. And actually, our enrollment supports the staffing that we have there anyway. So it's right on target with our projections. There will be a laptop refresh for all teachers, iPad refresh in grades 1, 5, and 9, investment in a district-wide college and career platform. We've never had that before, so that's something new and exciting that can be almost like a one-stop shop for our students and counselors in helping students identify career paths. We're also piloting a new hospitality management program at AHS, and that will start very low-key, and we'll see what the interest is before we build that program out with additional equipment or whatever the needs are for that program. Again, we are funding approximately 50 positions over what we're allotted for BEP, so that our teachers and staff hopefully will have the additional support that's needed in order for them to more effectively do their jobs. In our campuses, we are in the process, you're going to hear a little bit about tonight, fine arts expansion at AHS. We've never done anything like that in the history of our district, so I know when we had our one-on-one meetings, all board members were very supportive of this initiative, and it's going to be really exciting as we get started with that. We're doing a STEM lab remodel at AMS, and they got a little chunk of change last week when they were named, along with the high school, a STEAM distinction school. So I think they ended up with $30,000 in addition to the money that we've set aside for some of those renovations. So that's exciting. Outdoor classroom at AMS is another investment, track resurfacing, baseball bleacher upgrade at AHS, front parking lot extension at AMS, which has been long needed and long overdue, and then, of course, HVAC partial replacement at AHS. That's an ongoing cost that we have to incorporate. We've talked a little bit about ESSER funds. There's some completed projects that we've done and some things that we plan on doing, and how we've utilized those funds for really things across the board. It's been anything from capital projects to some additional staffing to teacher bonuses, additional interventionists, permanent subs, additional nurse. You don't like to put a lot of money, ESSER money, that's expendable or that's going to go away in staffing, because then you're left to sustain those positions. But we've been very careful and strategic about that to make sure that any position or any people that we put in those positions, that we will be able to sustain the position or have a position for a person to move into once that funding is depleted. So all of those are things that are completed, upcoming, some that I've mentioned before, and then staffing support, of course, is the additional staffing that I've mentioned previously. I feel like we've utilized those funds very well. Again, team effort, brainstorming, not just working in isolation, but how we can really work together to give the maximum benefit to our staff and students and our facilities. And there you have it, budget highlights.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. We're going to have a discussion at this point. I just wanted to say that I think we certainly received the budget ahead of time so that we can formulate our questions and get our thoughts together before we meet with Ms. Roberts and Mr. Mayo, and that is so helpful to us. We have not had that privilege, and it's really helpful for us since we have that ahead of time, and so we can formulate questions and be ready to get those questions answered. And I appreciate Ms. Roberts and Mr. Mayo in doing that for us. I know that's a problem, I'm sure, to get that done ahead for us, but we appreciate it because it certainly helps us so we can dig more into the budget and ask our questions, and we get good answers. So they answer all of our questions or take suggestions, and we appreciate that very, very much.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I just want to say too that this, well, first of all,
Ms. Conley, thanks for switching times so I could go to my budget meeting.
Oh, sure.
I took your time slot. But secondly, it was such a thorough run through of the budget for my individual budget meeting. I didn't think it was necessary to even have a special meeting to review it. That's how thorough it was, and I don't know that we've ever done that before.
That's right.
It was
That's right.
very detailed, very good. So I thank both of you for taking that time
Yeah,
and making that happen for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
me too.
Any other comments or questions?
Well, I've done several budgets and over my years in higher education, and I got to say this is a good one. Everything was explained to me when I went to my session with them, and I was very satisfied. And it's just great to see this budget and how it reflects the ACS for the town of Arlington.
All right. There's no other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Okay, the next item is 10B, and this is the approval of the Architectural Engineering Services Agreement for Arlington High School Fine Arts Wing expansion with Fleming Architects, and to grant the superintendent the authority to negotiate the terms of the related contract. You have that before you, and so there's also an addendum to that information that you received that sort of gives you a scope of what that project's going to entail. So as time moves forward with this project, I have asked our architect company to come back and present to you all once we work through what this is going to look like so that you have a better understanding of, and we're still making changes. We have a really, really great head start on it, but we're still making some changes on it. So once we've decided on all of that, we'd like for them to come back and do a full-on presentation to show you what that's going to be like. It's going to be very exciting. But first of all, I want to recommend that you all approve the Architectural Engineering Services Agreement for Arlington High School Fine Arts Wing expansion with Fleming Architects, and to grant the superintendent the authority to negotiate the terms of the related contract.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion by Mr. Lamar, second by Ms. Conley. Any discussion? I just want to say I am so thrilled with this project. I can't wait.
I'm excited to see how this
So
is
excited.
gonna go.
I think it's going to be great.
Ms. Williams, if I could,
Sure.
I'd like to introduce a couple of the people that are here
Please.
tonight that represent Fleming.
Sure.
Mr. Michael Winter. And Michael, you're vice president of something with all these initials and stuff, so you tell us what your title is with Fleming.
Sure. My title is Vice President, one of the partners. I'm a registered architect in the state of Tennessee. The other letters are superfluous, but they mean that I have credentials.
We know that.
On behalf of my partners and the rest of our firm, we appreciate your consideration of our contract. We're very excited about this project, and we can't wait to get started.
Thank you. I'd also like to introduce Ms. Jo Pica. Is that correct? She has been assigned to be our project manager, and this is a historic moment for ACS because she is the first female project manager that we've had on any of our capital projects. So we're looking forward to that as well. So they've been great to work with thus far, very creative, great ideas, and again, as I said, once we're farther into this, I have asked them to come back and really show you what this is going to look like when it's going to be really, really nice when we're finished with it. But we've met, we initially got input from the fine arts teachers. We had a survey that went out to them to ask them, what is your wish list, with understanding it's a wish list. It's not a going to happen list, it's a wish list. And so we gave that to Michael, and they incorporated that in the initial run-through. We met with them, talked about some changes. Just last week, they were also able to meet with those fine arts teachers, department by department. We brought them in, said this is what we're looking at, this is what we're planning, what's your feedback on that, because we want it to be user-friendly for them, or otherwise there's no need in doing it. And so they, again, received some feedback from the teachers that will be using the space. And we've, again, made some additional tweaks, and we will continue to do that. But as we roll this out, it will make a lot of sense, and it will be ready to be presented to you all as a board.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait
That's
to see
really
that.
exciting.
It's gonna be good.
And we appreciate you listening, Mr. Mayo. Certainly not micromanaging, that's great. It's listening is always good. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the motion's carried. Okay, we have one more thing. Approval of the superintendent's bonus in his contract. If he has a satisfactory evaluation, we are allowed to give him a bonus. So if you would, I need to have a motion and would need to have an amount for that bonus.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we provide the superintendent with a bonus of $10,000.
All right, it's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second that motion.
All right, it's seconded by Mr. Lamar. Is there any discussion about that bonus?
Well, what we've heard here tonight, we're on cloud nine already. At least I am. And it's just been it's been a great night for a board meeting because we've heard great things and they will continue.
I think the evaluation speaks for itself. We'll leave it at that.
I agree with you. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. All right, Mr. Lamar has an announcement, I bet.
I do.
That pen went up, I know.
I do. 2 times in the year in the town of Arlington, we recognize our veterans. We have it on Veterans Day, which is already November the 11th, where we recognize the people who have served in the armed forces. This coming Monday is Memorial Day, and we recognize and memorialize those people that have died while they were serving our country. This is our 40th Memorial Day service. I've been doing it 20 years, and it's at the cemetery at 9 o'clock. Bring your chairs. It's under the oak tree, and if it rains, we go to the safe house at Arlington Elementary School. Ken Wells is the speaker. He was a POW during the Vietnam War. He was tortured and almost killed in 2 years in Hanoi Hilton. He has a very interesting story. I want you to hear it. And the second thing is at 599 Polk Street, the Church of Christ, we will have a brunch right after that, and that's also free. So we invite you to come and help us. We don't celebrate Memorial Day. We recognize and memorialize Memorial Day. The APTA puts this on. I'm just a person doing it. And a family here in Arlington for the last 30 or 40 years has been placing flags by every veteran in the cemetery. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful morning. It's going to be sunny and 89. So I invite you to join us at 9 a.m. this coming Monday. I'll be looking for you.
I have attended these memorial services, and they are absolutely inspiring. So I even bought a new chair for it. So I hope to see you there, all there. All right, I believe we're ready for adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Viock, seconded by Ms. Conley. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned.